tired of having to pay other people to create your logos and other illustrations, only to be displeased with the results? Why not create your own logos, or illustrations, infographics, or other vector art? And why not create illustrations for others as well? Hey there, welcome to the Illustrator Introduction course. Illustrator is the industry standard vector editing and illustration software that people across the world use to create logos, infographics, vector art, and other illustrations. In this course, you'll learn to master the various Illustrator tools and techniques as you create various illustrations, including a logo, some word art, a traced landscape illustration, and more. My name's Chad Newman, and I've used Illustrator as a freelancer for years, designing logos for clients, and I've also used Illustrator when I was an internet development director at an award-winning advertising design firm. Previously, I was managing editor at 2 graphic design magazines, one of which focused on Illustrator, and for the past 8 years, I've taught classes as a full-time university professor. I have a BA in communication, an MA in journalism and media studies, a PhD in communication, and a passion for teaching. So enroll now and we'll see you on the inside of the course. Let's get started illustrating. Hey there, welcome to the Illustrator Introduction course. Illustrator is the industry standard vector editing and illustration software that people across the world use to create logos, infographics, vector art, and other illustrations. In this course, you'll learn to master the various Illustrator tools and techniques as you create various illustrations, including a logo, some word art, a traced landscape illustration, and more. My name's Chad Newman, and I've used Illustrator as a freelancer for years, designing logos for clients, and I've also used Illustrator when I was an internet development director at an award-winning advertising design firm. Previously, I was managing editor at 2 graphic design magazines, one of which focused on Illustrator. And for the past 8 years, I've taught classes as a full-time university professor. I have a BA in communication, an MA in journalism and media studies, a PhD in communication, and a passion for teaching. To get started in the course, go ahead and go to the next lecture, and right here where it says click on the additional resources button in the top right hand corner to download the support files. That's right, so you can see right up here. Just click on that and then click on this. It'll be a zip folder. So if you're on a Mac, you can just double click on it once you download it and it'll extract to a folder. If you're on a PC, you might have to right click over it and then expand to or extract to, and you can just tell which folder to extract it to. So you can open up those illustrations if you want to follow along with the examples that I'm using. Once you've gone through some of the lessons, hopefully you're following along these as well, but definitely the activities at the end of some of the sections. Once you create something there, go ahead and you'll save it for a web version, so a raster version, and then post it as an image in a new discussion so you can get critiques from me and other students. Let me know if you have any questions about the course as well, any techniques, or if you're confused, or if you have questions about another aspect or tool or technique or method in Illustrator. Just post a discussion, I'll be sure to reply over here. Thanks. The pen tool is one of the most frustrating tools for some of my university students, but it doesn't have to be. And once you really understand how it works, it's much easier. So go ahead and go to File, New, and then just create a new file with enough space to work with. And then if you see on the Tools panel, there's a tool called Pen Tool, or you can just press P on the keyboard. And how this works is I'm just going to set a fill to some kind of color so we can see it on the screen. And then for the stroke, I will have black is fine for this example. I make it a little bit thicker so we can see. And then the pen tool, if you just want to make straight lines, all you got to do is click and let go, click and let go, click and let go, click and let go. Then we can close out the path because right now it's not closed yet. And close it out. And now we have a closed path made up of 4 anchor points and 4 paths in between. So at this point I could choose the direct selection tool and click and drag the path, click and drag the anchor point, and so on. Now what if you want to create a curved design? Well, you just got to click and drag with the pen tool. So go back to the pen tool, and let's just say we wanted to make a wave. So click and drag, and then click and drag up here. Now you notice if this was a car going along a path, it's going to have momentum coming around this curve. It's going to go this way and then come back like so. And you can see the preview of it there. So if I click, you'll see it keeps going. What if we didn't want that? What if we wanted to go straight back? Well, this is what we need to do. I'm going to press Control or Command Z, that'll undo. And all you have to do is to reset that angle, you have to click on that, it adds that little convert anchor point icon in the lower right hand corner of the cursor. So I click that, and now I can set the angle to go back like that. Alright. So that's using the pen tool to add curved paths and not just straight paths. So I'm going to delete that. Hopefully that's clear how that works at a basic level. You just click and drag, and you can create different shapes. And you can close out the shape if you want, like so. And then you can edit it, of course, with the direct selection tool. You can move paths, change the curve of that path with the handles, and so on. Now if you click and hold onto the pen tool, you'll see there are a couple more options. There's Add Anchor Point tool, Delete Anchor Point tool, and then Anchor Point tool. What those do, well, just select the Add Anchor Point tool, and you can actually add an anchor point to something you've already drawn. And then you can click and drag it to move it out, change the angle of it, and so on. So if I use this in conjunction with, say, a shape, which we cover in a different lecture, let's just create a square here. And then on the Add Anchor Point tool, right now if I use the white arrow, for example, and I click and drag, I can just move the paths, and I can also move the anchor points. But I can't really do anything right here, right? What you can do is the Add Anchor Point tool will add an anchor point there, and wherever we want, and then use the white direct selection tool, and you can click and drag it, move it around, like so. So you can use the Add Anchor Point tool and Delete Anchor Point tool with any shape that we've drawn using the pen tool or the pencil tool or any of these shape tools down there. And the Delete Anchor Point tool just does that. If you want to delete an anchor point, it'll remove that, so then the two anchor points that are left just make a straight line. And we can add ones in as well. Now that fourth one, Anchor Point tool, what that does is it converts an anchor point, and I will show you what I mean here. I'm going to delete this. If I just draw, say, a square out again, and then I have the Anchor Point tool, if I click it and drag, it will give me these handles. So now I can actually turn this into a curved path here, whereas normally you can't. If I have the white direct selection tool and click and drag, it's just a straight anchor point with straight paths on either side. Use the Anchor Point tool, you can convert it by clicking and dragging on one of them. It pulls out those handles. If you want to convert it back though, just click it again, it goes back to a default anchor with no handles. Now when you have the Anchor Point tool selected, if you press Control on the PC or Command on the Mac, it does toggle to the direct selection tool. And if you have the pen tool selected and you hold the Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac, it turns into the Anchor Point tool. So if you're drawing something out like so, and you want to convert one of the anchor points, you can just hold on to Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac. If you hold on to Control on the PC or Command on the Mac with the pen tool selected, that will toggle it to be the direct selection tool. So if you're drawing and you want to just move one of these anchor points, you can just hold down Control or Command, move it, and then keep drawing. You can also change a little bit about the way these paths are moving in between steps. So what I mean by that is if I hold Shift, it will go at certain angles. So you see, it kind of constrains it to certain steps, as opposed to not holding Shift as you draw, and it's just a freeform mode. So that's the basics of the pen tool and a couple of keyboard shortcuts to know. We can use the pen tool to trace over images to give a stylized illustrative effect. We're going to be using the pen tool in this course to create logos and adjust logos. So practice with the pen tool and hopefully you will get used to how it works. It just has a little bit of a learning curve, but once you figure it out, it can be pretty useful. I'll see you in the next lesson. In this lesson, you'll learn the Type on a Path tool. It's a pretty cool tool, whether you're wanting to create some kind of logo or even a title to an illustration or a feature story or even a poster. So go ahead and create a new file And first we need to create a path for the type to go on. So one simple example would be a circle. So click and hold onto the rectangle tool, go down to the ellipse tool, click and drag, hold shift for a perfect circle. And so we have a basic circle here. And if you click and hold onto the type tool, you go down to the type on a path tool and hover over the path here. And if you click, notice we don't have a fill or a stroke to this shape anymore. Once we click, then we can type in our text. This is some copy. And if you choose one of the selection tools up here, you can click this little thing right on the opposite side of the circle. You'll notice right there, if you click that line there, you can actually move it around so it can be on the inside, like that, and it can be on the outside like we have it already, and you can move it around the edge if you want. So depending on where we want it to end up, we can move it around. You can also, of course, double click and click and drag here. Just get the cursor in there, and change the font size and keep typing on there. But again, you just want to choose one of the arrows and then move it around, and you can edit it, or you can even put it on the outside. So it takes some getting used to move it around, but basically you can move it all the way around this on the inside or the outside. And that's a circle example. But if you want to do something more customized, you could do even like starburst. You can add a type and a path too, and it can just go around the edges. But pre-made shapes are fine, but you can also create an original shape. So a lot of times we'll use the pen tool and click and drag, click and drag. It doesn't matter that we have a fill or a stroke, because it's going to erase it once we use the type and a path tool. Just make sure we're on this path here, and then so we got some type. We can change the font up here just like normal, the size, and we can use the arrows here and move it around. We can put it on the bottom, put it on the top. What's pretty neat is we can still adjust the shape, the path. So if I click on the end here, I can still edit it after we've typed. And same thing over here. I can move the anchor points, the paths in between, and the handles to adjust that curve. So that's the type and a path tool. I will see you in the next lecture. In this lesson, you'll learn about the rotate tool as well as the reflect tool in Illustrator. If you want to go ahead and follow along, open the support files decorative.ai and superhero.ai from the support files. And when we use the rotate tool, some people might think, well, why do we need that tool? Can't we just go to the selection tool, select what we want to rotate, hover over off the corner a little bit, and click and drag, and hold shift for 45, 90 degree, and so on angles? That is true, we can rotate it that way. However, the rotate tool gives us a couple more options and customizability. So you'll notice when you select something with the selection tool first, then select the rotate tool, you'll see this little thing in the middle here is a rotation point. So by default, if I just click and drag anywhere, I don't have to go right off the edge. I can click and drag anywhere here in the workspace, and it will rotate it along that axis, basically, along that point, really. So what if we want it to rotate on a different point? What we can do is just hover over this and click and drag it over, and now it will rotate around that point. So you'll notice the difference. Now it's rotating around that point instead. Another way to do that is if you hold on to Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac, and then just it turns into this little, it has a little minus sign next to it, the cursor. If I just click, it resets the point there. You could click over the original or there. And then it brings up this rotate menu. So now we can really set a specific angle. It has preview, you can copy it, or you can just hit OK just to rotate it and not create a new copy. So it's a little bit more customizable. A couple shortcuts. If you, of course we know what Alt or Option does. If you hold on to Control on the PC or Command on the Mac, that toggles it to selection tool where we can click and drag and move it around. And then as you're rotating it, if you hold shift, it will constrain it to specific angles. So what's a practical use for this? Well, I'll show you. If you go to File, New, just create a new document. I'm going to create a leaf design here. So if I click and drag with the pen tool, and then I'm going to click to reset the angle there, click and drag it back over. Okay, so I've got a basic leaf here. So if I wanted to rotate this, I could use the selection tool, right, and it would select it, but it's rotating it just from the center. What if I want to just rotate it and have the rotation point be over here? Well, choose the rotate tool, and I'm going to Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac and click right here. So it resets the point here. And for angle, let's do, this needs to be divisible by 360 degrees, so I'm going to do 10. And so you can toggle the preview, and you'll see the before and after. I'm going to actually click copy. And then I'm going to press Control on the PC or Command on the Mac and press D. Or you can go to Object, Transform again. So if I do that, just hold on to it, and it creates this spiral pattern here. A rotated pattern. So it's pretty cool. That's one application of it, of the rotate tool. If you click and hold onto the rotate tool and go to the reflect tool, this is a little bit different. I need to select all of this, so go ahead and open up superhero.ai. I'm going to click and drag around this person, and I'm going to hold shift and click the background, so I deselect the background. I just want him selected. Now we could, of course, rotate this. We could click and drag it so it kind of reflects it, but we don't know if it's the same exact width. I can hold shift and it would actually flip it like that. I can hold Alt and it will just expand from the center. But what if we want just a specific reflection, the same exact width? I'm going to press Control or Command Z to undo that. So once you have them all selected, click and hold onto the rotate tool and select the reflect tool. And you can click and drag and it just reflects. If I hold down Alt and click over here though, it will actually reflect it at a specific angle, so you can actually customize it, or you can just say horizontal or vertical. So vertical would be 90-degree angle, and click copy, and then you can create a copy as well. So then I know it's the same exact width, so you're not kind of stretching it out or making them too small. So it can be pretty useful as well, not just with one object, but as we've shown here, this is a bunch of objects put together. You can have a bunch of shapes and you want to reflect it on the left hand side or the right hand side. You can select them all and then select the reflect tool. And again, just hold Alt on the PC or Option on the Mac and you can enter in a specific value. That's the rotate and the reflect tools. I hope you learned a lot about these two tools. Just practice with them and you'll get better, and you'll see the different applications where we would use those when you want to rotate something, maybe create some kind of pattern, or even rotating something along the middle. Like if I use the star tool, make kind of a burst, hold shift so it's level there, and then rotate, and I'm just gonna Alt click right in the middle there. Same kind of thing, copy, Control D to repeat. You come up with some pretty cool patterns. So there are a lot of different applications for the rotate and reflect tool. I will see you in the next lesson.